Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about my week 5. Now I just took this morning because I needed my husband to help me insert it into the back of my arm since I'm rotating my different injection site spots. I just started the 5 milligrams today on my week 5. So I'm going to be going over, if you want to look in the chapters down below to skip ahead, I will go over how much weight I lost on week 4, which was my last week of the 2.5 milligrams, and then go over how much I lost in total of fat, both subcutaneous and visceral, as well as muscle gain, and overall percent loss during my first month of Zepbound. So I will tag that in the chapters down below. Today I'm going to be talking about a few other things. A lot of questions that I had in the past week, especially through comments and DMs, is regarding sleep during the Tirzepatide journey, basically. Insomnia, vivid dreams, are you having heartburn? What are some additional side effects that I am having that are not listed on the nice little list that comes from the clinical trials as known side effects? So I'm going to be covering all that today, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we're going to just dive in today, and I'm going to first talk about what a lot of people are discussing on Reddit. Yeah, a lot. That's where I found a lot of this, just to see, wait a minute, is this really something that is caused by Tirzepatide, or other people experiencing this as well? And I found a lot of different forums, both on Facebook, group pages, as well as on Reddit, of people discussing their sleep patterns being disrupted while they're taking Tirzepatide. No, this is not something that was mentioned in the clinical trial studies, and so I'm going to go over it a little bit here today on some of the things that I personally have been experiencing just in my first month on Tirzepatide. I will say that in the beginning, I would say probably around week 3, maybe even this past week of week 4, I was experiencing a lot of insomnia. And it's not that I could not get to sleep, that type of insomnia. It was more I was waking up every 30 minutes to every hour thinking that it was either time to get up, or because the dream that I was having, the dream was so vivid that I thought that I was awake. And then I was waking up thinking I was still in the dream. And that was happening every 30 minutes to an hour. At first I thought, okay, something's off, something's happening, maybe I'm getting sick. I don't think that these have anything to do with one another. Then when I really started looking into what other groups and other forums were saying, it definitely is one of these side effects. It is a known side effect in all of the new people who are experiencing this drug. It is very common, actually. So my dreams in the past week alone have been so incredibly vivid that I feel like I'm not getting any sleep whatsoever, because I feel like I'm awake the entire time I am asleep. And then I'm waking up at least every 30 minutes to an hour, also thinking that I'm still in the dream, or not really sure which one is reality. The other thing that's a little off for me is I do not typically wake up from a dream and then go back to sleep and continue that same dream. That's very few and far in between for me specifically, but that has been happening a lot just in the past week, where I'll wake up, I'll just go ahead and go to the bathroom, I come back, get comfy again, and then I go right back into the same dream that I was having. That for me is a little abnormal, but I have been doing it. So if you're doing it too, you're not crazy. It is likely the medication that you are taking. One thing I do want to say about Tirzepatide is there's been multiple different studies popping up here, there, and everywhere around the usage for Tirzepatide drug. They're studying this for Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease as well, just because of the type of protective brain barrier basically this drug provides, because we all know that the GIP, the GLP-1 plus GIP that is Tirzepatide, is affecting our brain. It's basically shutting off our brain from us realizing that we're hungry, us thinking about food, us even worried about what we're going to be eating next. It just makes you almost be indifferent or just not really care. It's not that you don't like food anymore, because you definitely do. Things still taste great. Things still taste good, but you're not constantly thinking when you're eating breakfast, like Oprah said on her special this week, oh my gosh, what am I going to have for lunch? And the holidays are coming up, and what am I going to eat at the holidays? That has completely been wiped out of kind of your train of thought. And so they know that tirzepatide is affecting your brain. So why not study it for Parkinson's and Alzheimer's as well? And part of the study that is for that specifically was talking about how that gray brain matter had less shrinkage while the patients were on tirzepatide. And that's why they are looking at this for that. They're also looking at this in an Oxford study. I think they said they had, I want to say 52 patients. Another one I read, I think they said they had over 200 patients. But they're also studying it for the obstructive sleep apnea. And that is still an ongoing study. I think that one is going, it might be 200 people for 52 weeks. That might be where my 52 is coming. I think they're still studying that to see if tirzepatide helps with that OSP, obstructive sleep apnea, or OSA, there we go, obstructed sleep apnea. But in my mind, I'm kind of thinking to myself, isn't that kind of a moot study for this? Like, the point of sleep apnea is usually that the person has a lot of weight on them that is kind of compressing down on their throat while they're sleeping, which can cause the apnea. So I feel like it's kind of a no-brainer that if you lose weight and you lose some of that subcutaneous fat that's here, that you won't have that. Some of the studies that are coming out for tirzepatide, I feel like, are very far stretched, almost like they're trying to get it approved for this just because they know that that's also a benefit of weight loss. So that one I wasn't so much about. But as far as knowing that they're studying this for Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, you know that this is affecting your brain. I know that I've not seen any studies of the insomnia or the vivid dreams when it comes to this. The only places that I've really found this even mentioned is in Facebook groups of people who are currently on the medication, and also on Reddit, which are forums where people are just answering each other's questions about, hey, am I crazy? Or are you guys having these crazy vivid dreams? I feel like those should probably be listed in their possible side effects, especially the insomnia portion, just because when it comes to your weight, if you're not getting enough quality sleep, that's going to affect your weight regardless. And if you're taking something that is affecting your quality of sleep that's supposed to help you with weight loss, that's a little bit counterintuitive. And there's got to be some reasoning as to why it would be affecting sleep patterns that I feel like someone should be looking into, especially with all of these like universities and professors wanting something to study on this drug. If you guys are watching this, make sure that you go and study the insomnia and vivid dream problem that everyone seems to be having. I would love to hear if you guys are having crazy vivid dreams as well. Please comment down below if you are. Comment down below if this sounds familiar to you, or if maybe you hadn't connected those dots yet, that's where this is coming from. You're welcome. That's where it's coming from. Another thing that I've had just in the past probably week and a half that I was not myself connecting the dots on as to maybe this is where it's coming from is heartburn. I never had heartburn before I had children, and so I was not really used to what it even felt like. Then after having children, I very much knew what it felt like because I felt like I had a fire-breathing dragon coming up my throat during both of my pregnancies. I've also, if you guys remember from previous weeks, I've been diagnosed with SIBO. And I already have like a gastrointestinal issue as far as the constipation goes. So I have IBS-C for constipation. So I had all of those things already coming into this. And one thing that I have found pretty regular on a lot of these studies, if you guys recall on our clinical trial data, it did say that some of the major or most likely adverse reactions were constipation, sometimes diarrhea, nausea, and vomiting. And a lot of these clinical trials and doctors are saying, hey, if you're overweight and you already have GI issues, or you're pre-diabetic, or you have diabetes, those things are already kind of present when you have those things already. So we don't really consider those to be side effects from this drug. We consider that to be something that you probably already had ongoing, and then maybe this might be heightening or making that a little worse. And so for me, I did previously have some heartburn. It was not very often, and I usually knew what types of foods was going to cause that for me. It was typically, anything tomato-based, anything very heavy, anything I shouldn't be eating that was very sugary or chocolate, things like that I definitely should not be eating. I would get heartburn. And I would know, okay, I'm going to get heartburn with this. I'll just go take you know, a Rolade or a chewable, you know, antacid, whatever I might have. I have been taking, because of my autoimmune disease drugs, how I have a higher strength NSAID, my GI specialist had given me something called pantoprazole. I've been taking that every day for months now, like maybe even a full year. And I don't think that it's something that you're supposed to take all the time, but because of the other drugs that I'm taking, I am on that. What's interesting is I was not having any problems whatsoever being on the pantoprazole before I started the Tirzepatide with heartburn. Now all of a sudden I go to sleep at night. I will not eat within 3 hours of going to sleep, and I still am having a lot of the food come back up, because the point of this is that it's slowing down your digestive system and things are kind of sitting longer towards your stomach so that you feel full. So I'm going to have to back up again and go more than 3 hours without eating before going to sleep, because I really have been having a hard time with heartburn as well. I also thought that maybe some of those insomnia, or like those moments that I've been waking up, might be because I'm having heartburn come up and it's waking me up in the process, because that's what happened when I was pregnant. And so these are kind of going hand in hand for me. Another issue that I've been having are headaches. Now, I specifically get migraines. I have gotten migraines since I was 8 years old. I get what they call a halo effect migraine, which is where it looks like I have a white halo around everything that I'm looking at, or I possibly might not be able to see out of one of my eyes and everything looks white. They're not fun whatsoever. I used to be on Topamax and Maxalt for these migraines until I learned how to try to control them myself. Typically, I can control them by not having quick changes in light. That will trigger them. Any kind of chocolate triggers them. Anything with red dye will trigger them. I learned that after eating my mother's red velvet cake one time, and I was just out for the count. Anything highly caffeinated, if I have way too much of it, when I was a teenager, I drank a lot of Mountain Dew. I drank the Code Red Mountain Dew, which is even worse, and I would get a lot of migraines from that as well. I know you're thinking, well, yeah, the Code Red has red dye in it, right? I did not know that I was allergic to those things, or what was causing my migraines then. This week I had a migraine and I was unable to go pick up my child from school. I did not have any of those things that I was typically known triggers to my migraine. And so I'm not really sure if that migraine was somehow coincided with the Tirzepatide, or stress, or changes, or possibly my body getting used to having Tirzepatide in it. I don't really know where it came from, but I have had 2 migraines in the past probably 2 months, and I had not had migraines for years. So that is also something to note if you get migraines or if you get headaches easily, to be on the lookout for that while you're starting and working your way through this drug. Now, last time I told you all, when we talked about muscles and the importance of trying to keep and maintain your muscle mass and why they're important, and I will link that down below. If you're watching this one and missed that episode, you can go and watch that episode about maintaining your muscle mass. Today, I told everybody I would talk about the different kinds of fat and why we're trying to lose those different kinds of fat. There are 2 different types of fat. There's subcutaneous fat and there's visceral fat. Visceral fat is known as the toxic fat of your body. What visceral fat is it is not usually visible or seen. So most people are focusing on subcutaneous fat and losing that because they want to fit better in their clothes. They want to look better. They want to look like they don't have any fat. However, what you really need to be focusing on is the visceral fat, which is fat that is going to be surrounding your internal organs. Okay, so subcutaneous fat, like I said, is basically what people are worried about visibly being able to see it. That is the layer of fat that is between your outer layer of skin, and like on your stomach, it would be between your layer of skin and your abdominal wall. It is what's kind of making your belly stick out. It's what's making your clothes not fit right. Whereas your visceral fat can be all the way around your heart, all the way around all of your intestines, all the way around your liver, your lungs, everything on the inside. And when you have fat around the inside, right, that is the visceral fat, and it is what is called the omentum around your internal organs. Okay, so when you lose the visceral fat, it helps improve your overall health. Okay, so think about like what your metabolic age would be. losing visceral fat is going to improve and make your metabolic age be more closer to what your actual age is instead of aging you faster. When you're losing subcutaneous fat, it's really more of a physical appearance type thing. When you're losing fat in general, though, here are some of the things that I'm going to list up for you guys that you're no longer at risk of, or your risk of getting is less. So your high blood pressure, having less fat is going to help you with high blood pressure. It's going to help you with different heart diseases, not getting those, different kinds of cancers, fatty liver disease. It's going to get rid of that. It can improve sleep apnea, which is why I was saying earlier that Oxford study of the obstructive sleep apnea study was a little like, okay, everybody knows like if you lose fat and you lose weight, it's going to help with that anyway. But I think they just kind of wanted a study that they knew was going to be, they were going to get great results. You reduce your risk of having a stroke, you reduce your risk of having kidney disease, and having some type of subcutaneous fat. I know I was going to tell you there are benefits to having subcutaneous fat. It pads your muscle and your bones, especially if you were to fall. So having some type of layer of fat there is good, especially as you age. You know, you hear all the time about elderly people who are falling, you know, at home, falling in nursing homes, breaking a hip because they fell. It's not just because of things like osteoporosis. It can also be because there's really not enough what we call cushion around those muscles and bones. It also can help protect your blood vessels and your nerves and helps connect those to your skin and muscle as well through that fatty layer. Your fatty layer that's on you, which is the subcutaneous fat, also helps to regulate and control your body temperature. So if you've been having a lot of like chills lately, or like all of a sudden you might feel like, oh gosh, I'm freezing cold, it could be because you are losing some of your fat, which helps your body regulate its body temperature. So think of it that way. You know, the kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm freezing, I can't get warm, could possibly be because your body is used to having this adipose fatty layer to help control that body temperature, and now it's losing some of that. It's not necessarily a bad thing to go through that process, and you want your body to slowly learn to regulate itself at the new size. That's why it's important to not lose a ton of weight all at once and keep trying to lose as much as possible. Your subcutaneous layer will also attach that middle layer of skin called the dermis. What I said is that it's connecting that to your skin and bones, and you want that to happen through connective tissue, and you want all of that to kind of be working harmoniously together, because your fat is also a source of where a lot of hormones come from as well. And so you don't want to have these major hormonal changes by losing so much fat and not having any subcutaneous layer at all. That subcutaneous layer of fat can also be like a backup energy source for your body. If you were kind of going through any kind of like, you know, catastrophic event that you needed energy, that fat layer can provide that for you as well. Now, one thing I will talk about as far as your subcutaneous fat, especially around the belly, which is where most people want to lose that fat, the subcutaneous fat, is the kind of rule of thumb for how large your waist should be is half of your height. So you're going to take your waist over height ratio, and you want it to be half of, at least, you know, less than half of your height. You don't want to go more than 0.5 for that ratio. So that is what they consider to be the healthy ratio of your stomach circumference. And if you go back to those studies and the clinical trials that they were doing, they were taking the waist circumference of all of the patients as well throughout the study. So as far as visceral fat, a lot of the reasons as to why visceral fat is not great for you. One, of course, you don't want all this fat surrounding all of your organs, especially if it's growing, because then it's going to start squeezing those organs to where they cannot function properly. Visceral fat is also kind of a known culprit of insulin resistance overall, which, as we know, insulin resistance leads into like this metabolic state and metabolic disease, which can lead into being diabetic. It can also increase your risk of having a stroke, just because if you think about, if this is your heart and then you have all this fat around it that keeps growing and growing and growing, at some point, if you have so much fat around an organ that it just cannot function, then that can lead into not just a stroke. It can lead into a heart attack. It can lead into a lot of different things. Just because you see someone who is thin and skinny and doesn't have a lot of subcutaneous fat does also not mean that they don't have visceral fat. And one of the things that I had someone ask me on one of the previous weeks was, well, how are you weighing to know if, you know, like if it's visceral fat, you're losing subcutaneous fat, if you like, how are you measuring muscle? And so I've said in every single video that I have a scale that I use. It is called the Renpho. You can get it on Amazon, hashtag found it on Amazon. They have it on deal quite often. I don't know what the price is right now, but I will tag it below. You can feel free to watch it to see if it goes on deal. I am not a big proponent of buying new things and new scales and new pieces of equipment and things like that. However, I do think that having both a good tape measure, which Renpho also makes one of those that will automatically log the measurement into the app, as well as your weight from the scale into an app, and it gives you really nice graphs and will trend it for you. I think that you should not just be measuring yourself on a scale and looking at just a weight. I think you need to be looking at what your water weight is, what your visceral fat is, what your subcutaneous fat is. You know, what's your bone mass right now looking like? What's your overall muscle mass looking like? What's your skeletal muscle looking like? How much water do you have? It also tells you the amount of protein that you have as well. It breaks all of these things out on this one relatively inexpensive piece of equipment that you can get easily delivered right to your home. And so this has actually been a little bit of a hiccup, I will say, that I've had with the Weight Watchers program. And I know that I have been like all about the Weight Watchers program, and I still very much am. One thing that they have said in the past week to me that kind of rubbed me the wrong way was that they want me to weigh myself on a daily basis. And I used to weigh myself on a daily basis, and then if the scale ever went up for any reason, you know, maybe I, ate and have not gone to the bathroom yet, or maybe I ate a little more yesterday, or maybe I worked out yesterday, and we all know that when you work out the next day, your scale can go up a little bit. I was really thrown off when I used to do that, and I would just see the one number at the top without a breakdown of what all the makeup was. So I am a data person. I've always been a data person. I used to work in pharmaceutical manufacturing. I was in operations. I was then in planning. After that, I am like, where do these numbers come from? What does this make up? I knew how to make things in a very high level, for the people at the top level that only want to know the high number, but I am the person that I want to know what makes up that high number. What is it? Where is it coming from? Where is the problem? Where is it good? Where is it bad? That's me. And so for me specifically, I used to weigh myself on a daily basis, and I would get really upset, and sometimes I would get really depressed if the number would go up from the day before. And then I would kind of go into this, well, I'm just not going to eat today type phase. I don't want to do that. That's not healthy to do. That's not the correct way to lose weight. The correct way to lose weight is to make sure that you are eating a healthy, maintained diet of whole foods on a daily basis, which I will say that on Tirzepatide, anything that has been packaged in any way, shape, or form that I have tried to eat, I find it absolutely disgusting. I will eat it and I'm like, this is not good. Like, this does not taste right. There's something, it's just off. The only things that have really tasted good to me are whole foods. So I am just switching over to, okay, I'm on a whole food diet. This is what I eat. I'm eating whole foods. I don't really like that Weight Watchers Clinic is asking me to weigh on a daily basis. I told them that. I said, listen, I don't like weighing on a daily basis. I don't want to see that the number has gone back up. I do understand their method behind it because they're wanting to take an average of my week, especially if I was, lower this day, and then all of a sudden it's weigh-in day that I log and it's up 2 or 3 pounds. They want to see that it was previously down, and they take the average of those together to determine what my weight currently is. I get that. I do understand their means behind their madness. I just don't really like it. And so for me, having a scale that I can just go step on and not look at is great. However, in order to get your weight to automatically log over into Weight Watchers, you do have to have their Weight Watchers scale. I am not going to buy their Weight Watchers scale. On the Sequence side, it is not going to automatically be interfaced with the Weight Watchers side and the Sequence side. So you're going to have to manually log that over in Sequence anyway, which means you're going to have to be looking at your weight. Now, like I said, I do understand their, method behind this madness. I'm just not someone who wants to be weighing myself on a daily basis, because it can kind of put me into like a weird kind of phase of like this weird depression if I see it go up. So right now I'm having to weigh myself and just let my husband log it for me, just to make them okay with having my weight logged more than every Wednesday, which is what I was doing before. So now we're going to go over what most people are here for, which is how much weight did I lose during my final week of the 2.5 milligrams and being on that. So I have all the numbers right here. So for my week 4, which is the whole first month, during week 4 alone, I lost 3.8 pounds, which is up from the week before where I only lost 0.4 pounds. What's great about that is I did lose in subcutaneous fat. The visceral fat stayed the same, so on that one. But I also know in order to lose the visceral fat, I need to get more into a exercise routine. What we ended up doing is we went to the zoo with some friends and our kids. We ended up walking over 3 miles. I was kind of hurting from that. Then the very next day, we ended up putting out all kinds of mulch and picking weeds and doing hours upon hours of yard work. And so me and my husband both were kind of sore from that. And so I was very tired as well from waking up constantly all throughout the week. And so my normal, getting in the gym and doing the Weight Watchers weights and getting on my bike, that just was very tiring just to think about for me. And so that's also the tiredness is in fact a side effect, or can be a side effect from the tirzepatide. One thing that I did read about is that tirzepatide does not cause hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar, but it can put you towards hypoglycemia, having that low blood sugar if you're not eating enough. And so I found that, okay, maybe I need to incorporate just a little bit more carbs into my normal routine so that I can have that like short burst of energy to be able to go and do those workouts. Because if I want the visceral fat gone, working out for at least 30 minutes is going to do nothing but aid in getting that bye-bye, to say bye-bye to the visceral fat. My water was up. My muscle and muscle mass, skeletal muscle and muscle mass were both also up as well. And my proteins were up. So basically for the whole first month, I succeeded. I lost 12.8 pounds total in my month 1. So the first 4 weeks taking the 2.5 milligrams of tirzepatide. I lost 2.8 pounds of subcutaneous fat. I lost 2 pounds of visceral fat. My water is up by 2.4 pounds. My muscle is up by 2.8 pounds, and my protein is up by 0.7. So I'm keeping my protein up, I'm keeping my muscle up, I'm keeping my water up, and I'm trying to get rid of fat and anything that just happens to be stuck in there needing to come out. So overall, I feel like month 1 was great. 12.8 pounds in a month while also maintaining my muscle is fabulous to me. Today was my first injection of the 5 milligrams, just because I am going based off the clinical trial of how long you should stay on things. A lot of people will say, hey, wait, you lost 12.8 pounds in month 1 and you were only on the 2.5. Shouldn't you just stay on the 2.5? That's really based on you and your own doctor's kind of opinion. If you're not really having a ton of side effects and you like that and you're losing weight slowly, then by all means you could stay on the 2.5. I am going to progress to the 5 and just see how it goes. I might stay at the 5 longer if I continue with the vivid dreams, insomnia, heartburn, tiredness. If I continue, or if any of that gets worse, then I will kind of sit and stay for a while and let my body get used to it. Because like I said, these are drugs that every single person is going to react to completely differently. But it is common to find just some types of common ground between people, especially if you're looking in forums on Reddit or on Facebook groups. You will find a lot of different things there, maybe even things that you yourself are not physically going through. So I'm going to show you guys my injection this morning. My husband gave it to me in the back right here in the back of my arm back here. You all know that I did say that I've been trying to rotate my different injection sites just to see how each injection site did. When I injected into my right leg, that is when I lost, I believe, only the 0.4 pounds. When I injected into my left arm, I think I lost right around 3. When I injected into my left leg, I lose usually between like 3 and 6. And so now we're going to see how much I lose injecting into my right arm. You can also additionally inject outside of 2 inches from your belly button around on your stomach. However, this month I did put my Cosentyx injection into my stomach this month. So I don't want to inject multiple times into the same area. I kind of want to separate these drugs a little bit so that they can be a little more effective. You know, I did talk to my rheumatologist about the Tirzepatide and how, you know, maybe this has just shut off my part of the brain that makes me realize that I have inflammation, or possibly, like some of the studies project, it is lowering your body's inflammatory response overall. But I have not felt better as far as my AS and my inflammation in my body, as far as my joints constantly throbbing, my sacral joint, which is where my spine and hips meet, constantly throbbing and kind of locking up on me. I don't know if that part of my brain has just been turned off to where I don't realize it and it's still there, or if it is in fact helping it. But I am looking forward to going to the rheumatologist next month and running some of those tests to see. And of course, I will report that back to you all when I do that as well. So I'll show you guys my injection from my husband right now. Hold it down.
Like this, right?
Yeah.
Hold it down like that.
Push it and then push the button on the end. Done. Thank you.
And this is where you get some
in case it comes off.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that's going to be it for today. I will come back next week because this is my first injection of the 5 milligrams, and I will let you all know how it went with this, if I got any new kinds of reactions to this, if my, crick in my neck, that I got from the first injection of the 2.5 that came in as my very first side effect came back when it increased the dose to 5 milligrams, or if any of the current type of insomnia, heartburn, vivid dreams gets worse on this. I will also let you all know that next week on week 6, where I go over the results of week 5. So stay tuned for that. If you are not currently subscribed to my channel, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. There's also a nice little bell up top that will let you know when I've posted new videos, so it will alert you and let you know of that as well. You can additionally follow me on Amazon. I am an Amazon A-list influencer at amazon.com/shop/KetosisMom. I do lots and lots of video and photo and live stream reviews on different products, so if that's your thing, you can find that over there. I'm on Instagram at KetosisMom, as well as TikTok at KetosisMom, and I'm also on Instagram at Living Large and Lily, and Like to Know It at Living Large and Lily. So if you like plus size or mid-size fashion that is grand millennial or a little preppy, then you can also follow over there. I will see you guys next week, and I hope that all of your Tirzepatide journeys are going well. Bye, y'all.